Is Christianity crazy? An insane idea? A nutty religion? Are Christians just wacko religious extremists? Well, that's nothing new. Critics called Jesus insane and his followers crazy for claiming that he rose from the dead. In the New Testament, St. Paul admitted that Christianity seemed foolish to the worldly elites of his day. Today, the mainstream media and Hollywood portray Christians as low IQ kooks who've been bamboozled into following a fruitcake religion. On social media, if you dare to admit that you believe in historic Christianity, you'll be brutally mocked, insulted, and maybe have your account canceled. Admit it in the workplace, and you might lose your job. It really hurts when it comes from people that you care about. They argue with you, they snicker, they roll their eyes, they make snarky comments. And you start to wonder, are they right? Is it crazy? Am I crazy to believe it? Now, I'm not going to prove that Christianity is true in just a few minutes on YouTube, but I do have 3 responses. First, crazy compared to what? To say that Christianity is crazy presumes that the world's default setting is rational and that the status quo is sane and that Christianity is just a weird aberration. Are we looking at the same world? Christianity's critics pretend that the world is a level plane of composed secularity, pockmarked with these pits of religious madness that sometimes people fall into. And they imagine themselves standing on that plane of sanity, looking down, pointing and laughing that you've fallen into some pool of nuttiness. But the real world is a battle of narratives, of ideologies. The question isn't if you're going to believe in worship, it's what. The Romans didn't toss Christians to the lions because they followed Jesus, but because they wouldn't worship the Roman state. And the atheistic ideologies of the last 2 centuries? The French Revolution tore the crucifix out of the Cathedral of Notre Dame in Paris and installed a goddess of reason on the altar. And then the streets ran red with the blood from the guillotines. Communism? Well, communism claims to be scientific atheism, but it's brutalized hundreds of millions of people. Look at the world that those who mock Christianity are building, the strange gods and ideologies that they serve. The culture that they mock us from is as irrational and, well, frankly, as weird as any in history. We can legitimately discuss, even argue, about the historicity of Jesus rising from the dead. But Christianity is no crazier than anything its critics believe, and probably less. Second, if a tree is known by its fruits, then Christianity has earned its credibility. A lot of what we know by observing effects. We know, for example, that a medicine works because we observe that it makes most people better over time. I can't prove that Christianity isn't crazy because you can't prove a negative hypothesis. But I can point to its positive effects in the lives of billions of people and on the arc of civilization. And I can reasonably conclude that it has been perhaps the least crazy thing that humans have ever believed. Now, I know that's not the version of the story that you'll get from its critics, because they take it as dogma that Christianity is responsible for most of the world's ills and has brought nothing but ignorance and darkness and oppression. Well, let's apply the same standard. What have the atheistic secular ideologies brought to the world? Have they brought an age of light and learning and freedom? Have they brought truth, goodness, and beauty? Or far darker things? Of course, Christians haven't always lived up to Christ's standards. I know, the Crusades, the Salem witch trials, etc., etc. And I'll do future videos about those things. But even falling short, Christianity has brought more than enough value to this world to establish its credibility. Third, belief often boils down to a choice. I know we like to think that we only believe in facts based on an objective review of scientific evidence. But most of the time, we choose to believe based on plausibility and credibility. So we choose to believe doctors or scientists because we think they're credible and that their recommendations seem plausible. We choose to believe historical claims or scientific theories or ideologies based on plausible explanations by credible sources. But critics try to hold Christians to a different standard in arguments. The average Christian is supposed to rattle off scientifically indisputable evidence of their faith. Now, for 2,000 years, Christian scholars have offered rational arguments. That's a field called apologetics. And there are dozens of websites and YouTube channels and books unpacking all of that. But for today, I'll just say that Christianity isn't a crazy idea. It's not a wacko worldview, and you aren't crazy for choosing to believe in it. It just might be the sanest voice in this crazy world. So don't be ashamed of your faith or afraid of mockery and scorn. In his Sermon on the Mount, Jesus said, "God blesses you when people mock you and persecute you and lie about you and say all sorts of evil things against you because you are my followers. Be happy about it. Be very glad, for a great reward awaits you in heaven. And remember, the ancient prophets were persecuted in the same way." Subscribe to our channel and like and share our videos.